Let's hop in our DeLorean and head back to the future. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to head back to November 5th, 1985 for a little classic called Back to the Future. Back to the Future dropped on July 3rd of 1985. It's rated PG. It's an hour and 56 minutes long. It had a budget of $19 million. That year it grossed $212 in America and $383 worldwide. It was the highest grossing film of 1985. Now, this film had been shopped around for a while. The script was written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis directed the film. They shopped this all over Hollywood, to all the studios. They got turned down 44 times before finally it got greenlit at Universal. Steven Spielberg stepped up to produce the film, and a classic was born. Now, we have a great cast here, especially now looking back on it. At the time, they didn't know how this was going to work out, but we got Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly. We got Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett Brown. We got Leah Thompson as Lorraine McFly. We got Crispin Glover as George McFly. And we got Tom Wilson as Biff Tannen, one of the best movie villains of all time, especially in this trilogy. He's great. And every iteration of Biff throughout the trilogy, he's fantastic. No complaints there. Now, Michael J. Fox famously was not originally hired as Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz was hired as Marty McFly. They actually filmed some of the movie with Eric Stoltz, and it wasn't working out. Tom Wilson didn't get along with Eric Stoltz. He didn't like working with him. And Christopher Lloyd actually thought Eric Stoltz's name was Marty because he never broke character. And he just wasn't working out, and they decided to replace him with Michael J. Fox. But Michael J. Fox was filming a little show called Family Ties around that time. So they had to go to the producers of that show to ask for permission to hire Fox. Fox took the role, and he filmed Back to the Future and Family Ties back to back. He would film Family Ties either during the day and film Back to the Future at night, or whatever he had to do, but he was going basically from one set to the other during the duration of this production. If you've ever seen this film, let's get into it. This film is basically, we are introduced to Marty right in the beginning of the film, and he enters Doc Brown's house, and we see that famous scene with him hooking up to the amplifier, hitting the strings on the guitar, and got blown back across the room. And Doc calls him and tells him that he shouldn't hook up to the amplifier. There's a slight chance of overload, which we've already seen happen. And he tells him to meet him at the Twin Pines Mall late that night, which Marty does. And that's when Doc unveils his new invention, a time machine created out of DeLorean, which looks badass. I love that car in this film. It looks amazing. And he demonstrates it with Einstein, shows him that it works. The terrorists that Doc Brown got the plutonium from show up, shoot Doc Brown, and Marty escapes using the DeLorean and goes back to November 5th, 1955, which he meets his parents, unbeknownst to him, and he has to track down Doc to try to help him get back to 1985. And basically then his mom becomes infatuated with him. He has to get his father and his mother together, and they have to deal with Biff. And at the end, we have a happy ending, and Marty is sent back to 1985. Although we see Doc come back at the end for a stinger and say, I need you and Jennifer to come with me, Marty. We got to do something about your kids. And that set up the sequel that didn't come out to 1989. Now, this is a film I obviously grew up on. I used to watch the shit out of this film. We had it recorded off of HBO on a VHS tape, and I used to watch this ad nauseum. This is one of those films I grew up on. I watched all the time, along with Ghostbusters and many other films. But this is definitely one of my favorite films of all time, up there with Jaws. And the reason for that is not only is the script pretty much pitch perfect, the script is. I mean, it's so well done by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. And the cast is fantastic. Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd together are pitch perfect. I believe that they're friends in real life, that he has this friendship with this older man, and they actually love each other and care about each other. And Marty sees the good in Doc Brown, even though everybody else in town thinks he's a nutbag. And I've always enjoyed their friendship. And all throughout all three films, which we'll get into the other two films as we go along, the relationship is just fantastic. And then you got Crispin Glover as George McFly, at least in this film, and he's awesome here. All his unique mannerisms in that come through in his performance, and he's great. And obviously Leah Thompson's great as Lorraine McFly. Tom Wilson's amazing as Biff. Everybody's great in this film, but Biff doesn't, I mean, he's a great bad guy, a great heel for Marty to bounce off of. And through all three films, each iteration of Biff is phenomenal. I mean, Tom Wilson knocks it out of the park. I mean, I've seen him in other stuff, but these three films, he's really just amazing in this role as Biff. Again, I love the DeLorean. I love the look of the film. Robert Zemeckis directs the shit out of this. The effects to this day, even on 4K, hold up pretty damn well. There's just a few chinks in the armor in the high def. But overall, those effects are still badass to this day. Dean Cundey shot this film. He went from working with Carpenter to Zemeckis on this, and the cinematography is great. The story builds and builds and builds, and it has a great finale. And really, this all stemmed from Bob Gale said that he was looking through his father's yearbook, and he wondered to himself if he would have been friends with his father if he could have met him at the same age. And that was the genesis, and him and Bob Zemeckis came up with the time travel element. If they would go back in time, would they be friends? Would they get along? And that's what sparked the idea for Back to the Future. Now, again, they shopped this film around for a very long time. Couldn't get it greenlit because they had a couple misses with Used Cars, which I loved Used Cars, but it was not a hit. Kurt Russell's amazing in that film. Until Romancing the Stone was a big hit, they finally got the green light for this. And that's, like I said, Spielberg came on to produce this film. Huey Lewis is in this film as a cameo. If you've seen this film, you know that. He plays the judge at the tryouts for see who's going to play, the band that's going to play at the school dance. And he's the one who says, "You're just too darn loud, son." And Huey Lewis in the News contributed 2 songs to the soundtrack, Power of Love and Back in Time, which are fabulous songs and pure 80s awesomeness. Overall, this is just a film I grew up on. I love this film. I think, again, I have certain films that I find perfect. Jaws is one of them. Raiders of the Lost Ark's one of them. This one is another one I find perfect. Everything from the casting, the acting, the effects, the way it's shot, the script itself is just utter perfection, and I've always loved this film. I would give Back to the Future a 10 out of 10. It's just pure bliss, pure 80s bliss that still holds up to this day. Has some poignant messages about growing up and friendship and your relationship with your parents. It's just a great movie, and it's why it's lived on all these years. And if you don't have that 4K, I know Amazon had the box set on sale last week for like $30. It's well worth it if you're a fan of this trilogy. The transfer, especially on the first film, looks great. I have not watched the other 2 films in 4K yet. I had the old Blu-ray box set, but I upgraded last year, and it's the first time I'm diving into this 4K set, and the transfer is great. It's the best the film's ever looked, and the best the film's ever sounded, and it's just a movie that my son loves too. I've showed it to him. He absolutely loves this trilogy as well. He has a DeLorean from Back to the Future on a shelf in his bedroom. Pitch perfect movie in my eyes. 10 out of 10, Back to the Future. What's your thoughts on this film? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe button, share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews, but until then, bye.